Good morning, everyone. The last day. I'm sorry. But that's okay. Let's make the most of it. I hope you've enjoyed your cruise so far. Yes? I'm glad. I'm very, very happy that you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed all the Celebrity Life activities that we've provided for you, especially our enrichment program. David Dillard has been a vital part of our Beyond the Podium series, and we really want to give him a nice round of applause and thank him for giving us great information about all the posts of thought, and then today about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Once again, folks, my name is Kate, your activity manager from the USA, and I just want to say thank you for joining us all these days at all of our Beyond the Podium talks. And I just wanted to let you know we do have a survey that goes out to you in a couple of days, or when you sign off. And if you really enjoyed the Beyond the Podium series, please let us know. And let us know how well you enjoyed David's or Michelle's or Howard's talks. Okay? Thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is David Dillard in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay back there up in the top. Can you hear me fine? Okay, thank you. Well, welcome to my last lecture of the cruise. And as you know, if you've been to my other lectures, I normally am what's called the destination lecturer, where I speak on where we're going, the city that we're going to. But I have other interests, and one of them is the world of cryptocurrencies. Now, the title of the lecture is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but that's sort of a misnomer because Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. And it's just that most people, when you speak of this, when you say the word Bitcoin, they say, oh yeah, okay, I've heard of that. If I say cryptocurrencies, they don't know what I'm talking about. So I had to put that in the title. But anyway, again, thank you for coming. And what I intend to do, and by the end of this lecture, you, even if you have never seen, heard, or thought about cryptocurrencies, will know where to get them, what they're used for, and whether you want to have some, and why they exist. Okay, so I'll give you the overview. I'm going to go through this rapid fire. One of the producers said, you know, you talk so slow. Why do you talk so slowly? And I said, well, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a southern boy. We talk slow down there. And so I'll be more like what we call a Yankee. That's someone who lives north of Hammond, Louisiana. Okay. So let me go through this just a little bit at a time here. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is all of our forms of money. Now, these are the forms of money that we are totally familiar with and use every day. Okay, the first one, and that's not what you think it is, that's salt. Did you know that the word salary comes from salt?
Yes.
That salt is one of the world's most widely used forms of money, and this is called a commodity money, all right? This is the way people would trade for things, is with commodities, and salt was one of them. Another one, and that's not what you think it is either, that is tea, and this was used mainly in China and Mongolia, and this particular block, it had a significance because it was a certain size. It was called Yuan Cha, all right? So this was a block of tea that would be traded if you were Genghis Khan, for instance, and you wanted to buy some extra horses for your army. You may have a pallet of these tea blocks that you would trade for those horses. So you can't really fit it in your pocket, but it was a form of money. That is money you're looking at. Green, too, by the way. All right, here's another form of money. This is probably my favorite form of money. I love Parmesan cheese. Did you know that in Italy, when the Medici family, the great bankers of Italy in Florence, were operating, that you could put Parmesan cheese up as collateral for a loan? This is true. And so Parmesan cheese, believe it or not, is a form of money, a store of value. And I like to eat it, so I guess I'm eating up all of my profits. That is a pun, right? Okay. So let's look at some other forms of money. And if I'm in your way over here, please just tell me. I'll be happy to stand back. All right, here's another famous form of money. This one sort of is the lowest on the list of transportable means of payment. This is called a ray stone, and it's used in Micronesia, particularly in Palau, which is an island nation, Guam, which is an American island in Micronesia, is another place, but it's mostly identified with the Yaps. The Yaps are the island people that would have these huge blocks of stone called ray stones, all right? As solid limestone, it weighs probably, you know, who knows, thousands of pounds. And if you were really wealthy, you would have several of these things. And you see how they're buried in the ground. They were rarely moved, all right? They have a hole in the middle to move them, but they were rarely moved because of the weight. So if you were a Yapa, I think it's a Yapese, not Japanese. That would be more like the Spanish pronunciation of a Japanese. It was Yapese islander, and let's say that your son was going to inherit a part of your wealth. Well, he would own maybe the top half or the bottom half of one of these ray stones. So that's money, right? Now this is Japanese currency from the 8th century. Arrowheads, rice, and gold, mainly gold, like small gold nuggets. And then for the English, who are always a little bit more skeptical than the rest of us, I'd like to show you what your money was. English tally sticks. These were used for many centuries. And the reason that they call them tally sticks is you see this this writing on here, which to me looks Celtic or something. I don't know what that style of writing is. But a tally stick was a piece of wood where a person that transacted business, and this would be like a banker in modern times, would use these tally sticks on a chain of or a cord of leather, and each of these marks represents a debit or a credit, and this describes what maybe the loan was for, if they bought a farm or something, and they owed 300 bales of, or what would it be, bushels of wheat, for instance, for a farm, house. Then the debits and the credits were all recorded in these notches, and then these tally sticks had the person's name on it. So there we go, all right? That's what you had before this. Now you're saying to yourself, the boys finally got it. That's real money. That's, yep, there you go. That's what we call money in England, right? Now, I have in my pocket, and I'm going to see how honest you are, because I'm going to hand out some money. I'm handing this man a 10-euro note. I'm going to go over here to this gentleman and hand him a $10 American bill. And for those of you who would like to fondle one, I have the new plastic version of the 10-pound English note. So maybe you can look at that and pass it around. I hope that I'll get those back, by the way. Like I said, that's a test of your honesty at the end of the cruise. But maybe after, you know, you get your bill and everything, you probably need it. If you need a loan, I can give you a tally stick with your name on it. However, what we call that you're looking at, and this is especially true in the crypto world, which I call it, it's the cryptocurrency world, I call the crypto world. And there's a lot of terminology that you're going to hear me say, and I'm going to try to clarify it for you, okay? But we call that money that you're holding in your hand, fiat. It's called fiat. So, why do we call it that? Well, first of all, let me give you this interesting little tidbit in case you're playing Trivial Pursuit. Does anyone know where the words pound sterling came from? That's good. That's good that nobody knows, because I can tell you this. We don't have any professors so far in any of my lectures. They're the worst, believe me. You don't want a professor in your lecture. Okay, so in the Saxon age of England, there were silver coins called sterlings, all right? Little bitty coins. And if you had to pay a large debt, let's say you had to go to the landlord and pay for a new horse or cow or something, you would take a pound of these little coins called sterlings. Sterlings. That's kind of like the bird name, starlings, sterlings. So you would have to the landlord, here's a pound of sterlings. Well, after a while, that got shortened to pound sterling. So if I owed you 50 pounds sterling, then I would bring you 50 buckets of coins, I guess, I don't know. But then the paper notes were started. Now let me tell you, just for your own information, what the definition of fiat money is. And remember, paper currency is fiat money. Fiat money is a currency without intrinsic value that has been established as money, often by government regulation. Fiat money does not have a use value, meaning that it's just a piece of paper with printing on it. And has value only because the government maintains its value, and because parties engaging in the exchange of it, meaning you and me, agree that that's worth 50 pounds, okay? Now the government can establish a note, like this says 50 pounds. Whoops, sorry, you're later, lady. Go back. Okay, 50 pounds. However, that doesn't mean that it's always going to buy 50 pounds worth of stuff. If you are familiar with the country of Zimbabwe in Africa, you know that Robert Mugabe, who was the president of that country, had hyperinflation in Zimbabwe. And they had a note like this that was for 1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. 1 trillion. So what would that buy? About a loaf of bread. That's all. 1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. Now that's called inflation or hyperinflation. And we could talk forever about that. But I just wanted to give you the idea that money has existed in both the commodity form, which we were talking about, the Parmesan cheese, and it's existed in the paper money form, which is called fiat currency. And now what you see a lot of is this, okay, online banking. Now, with online banking, I don't have to use paper money. I have a debit card that looks just like this ship's card that I can walk up to an ATM, or I can go in a place to eat or get a coffee or whatever. They swipe it, they do whatever they do, you punch in your code, and all of a sudden you get your cup of coffee. So this has no fiat currency associated with it in the terms that there is no paper money. So you see how happy she's smiling? That's because she's looking at her screen and she says to herself, wow, you know, I just went shopping with my debit card and thought I was blowing my whole paycheck, but wow, I still have 50 pounds left, or whatever that she has in her account. So let me ask you this question. And by the way, I think I have to put my disclaimer in this lecture somewhere. I am not trying to sell you on anything, okay? I'm not a broker. I'm not an investment representative for anybody. I don't represent any cryptocurrency company or anything like that. I just happen to be interested in it. And I am an investor in cryptocurrency. So I want to tell you about it. But with that said, okay, she's looking at her screen on her laptop and she sees her balance. And let's say, for instance, it's 1,000 euros or 1,000 pounds or $1,000. You notice that paper pound note I mean, the plastic, is that not strange to you English people? I would think, you know, being so into tradition, that would seem kind of odd. It's almost like, I don't know, some sort of space plastic or something. It's mylar. But when I first felt one of those, I thought, why did they go to this? Well, evidently they're outmoding all of the paper notes. In many countries, they've outmoded the paper notes, like in India, of a certain denomination. They're getting rid of them. You can't use them. China, in Asia, they've done that. And if you went to shop around Copenhagen, or Copenhagen, however you prefer to say it, you'll notice that it's better to use plastic than it is to try to use their real money, because they don't even use their real money. And this is true all over the world. The fiat currency is going away, okay? And what is happening is the combination of electronic banking, the debit card, and the credit card are right now the system that we are firmly centered in, all right? So what about these numbers on that screen? Now, do you think that when you see 1,000 pounds, I'm using pounds because I know we have a lot of English people on this trip, that if you went down to your local bank branch, you could go into the vault and there would be your name and your account number and a little bitty pile with 1,000 pounds in those notes sitting on a shelf?
Obviously not, but it's backed, you know, it's referred to. Those numbers on there are a contract between you and, let's say, the English pound. And the English pound, okay, is protected by the government through the money supply, and it's a currency that is physical, that cannot be easily copied, okay? So I think that has to be said.
Oh,
That's
sure.
very much different than the virtual currency, which doesn't have that.
Well, you're right. The government of England, and if we look at the note itself, you'll see where it says Bank of England. That's the central bank. Okay, the central bank issues the currency, and they do have their backing behind this, and that's true in America, and it's also true in Europe with the ECB. So you have the Federal Reserve in the United States, the Bank of England, and then the ECB. That's one thing about fiat currency I neglected to say, and thank you, sir, for clarifying that. So when we go to electronic banking, you have numbers on a screen, and that is the same as a representation of the fiat currency, but it's still numbers on a screen, okay? So this is where the segue occurs, all right? We have the central bank controlled currencies that are typically in use today. And then I want to show you something that might blow your mind, I hope. It did when I found out about it. This is the 1988 cover of The Economist magazine. Now, if you know anything about The Economist magazine, it's been rumored, and I don't have any proof of this, I don't know who does, that The Economist magazine is the mouthpiece of the Rothschild banking family, as well as J.P. Morgan interests in America and some other large institutions, okay? That's just a rumor, it's a conspiracy theory, but it's out there. Now, this came out in 1988. You can't really read the date, but that's 30 years ago this year. And the interesting thing about this particular issue was it said, get ready for a world currency. Now, on the cover they had the phoenix, which is, in the mythological sense, the bird that's rising from the ashes. And what is burning? Fiat currency. You see, there's fiat currency down here of all different denominations and countries. And it's on fire, and the phoenix is rising, and he's wearing this gold coin around his neck. And if you zoom in on it, it has the year 2018 imprinted on it. This is the real cover of The Economist magazine, by the way. I didn't retouch that with Photoshop. Okay, so here's what is interesting. This is the official logo for Bitcoin. Now look at the similarity between this and this. And you see how this has, I don't know my Greek alphabet well enough, but that's like, I think that's either a theta or something like that, I'm not sure, but They use this as 10 phoenix in the gold, and it's around the bird's neck, and it has a slash through it. The year 2018, and then now in 2018, we have all this hoopla about Bitcoin, and lo and behold, the two things are very similar. Okay, you want to know what the article said? 30 years from now, Americans, Japanese, Europeans, and people in many other rich countries, which when I read this, I thought, okay, well, they didn't know about the Brexit, so when they said many other rich countries, they're referring to the English here, so you can, they're not leaving you out when they say American, Japanese, and Europeans. And some relatively poor ones, which would be where I live in Spain, okay, will probably be paying for their shopping with the same currency. Prices will be quoted not in dollars, yen, or Deutschmarks, but in, let's say, the Phoenix, which is the name that they gave this thing. The Phoenix will be favored by companies and shoppers because it will be more convenient than today's national currencies, which which by them will seem a quaint cause of much disruption to economic life in the last 20th century. Okay, so what are they alluding to in that last sentence? Now, if you look at currencies, when you fly into a country, as I did recently into Sri Lanka, you can't take euros and go buy anything in Sri Lanka. You have to go up to the window, and you don't know who these people are, and you say, I need some rupees. Well, okay, so they give you like an idea of what rupees are. So I pull out 100 euros or whatever, and I say, I'd like enough rupees for that, you know, the equivalent amount. And they give you like, it's unbelievable. It's like 200,000 rupees or something. And you think, my gosh, you know, I've got all of these rupees just for 100 euros? What does a cup of coffee cost here? What do I pay if I want a decent meal out at a restaurant? Well, this is true when you go from the Eurozone, where the euro is used, but we've seen, like in Scandinavia, the Swedish, the Norwegians, the Danish, they want the kroner. If you go down to Croatia and countries on the Adriatic, they have their own currencies. So even though the European Union is in effect, not all countries use the euro. So don't count on it. There's still hundreds of currencies in the world. And most of the ones that are paper money, like the rupee, the euro, the pound sterling, as this gentleman said, are backed by the central bank of that country. That's the thing. It's backed by the central bank of the country. However, here it says, a quaint cause of much disruption to economic life in the last 20th century. Well, one of the problems with these currencies is that they all are worth different amounts. So you have this trading exchange called the Forex, and there's a lot of people who've made money, but many others who've lost a lot of money trading currencies on the Forex. Now, the famous the philanthropist George Soros claims to have made most of his fortune on the Forex exchange, trading currencies from one country to another. So we have that. Now, the difference between that Phoenix coin and what is a cryptocurrency is, this just clears up the picture a little bit. I don't think there is any difference. First of all, a cryptocurrency is a digital money, and it's created from computer code, all right? It's a digital form of money, and it's similar in effect to the online banking and the debit card. But basically, the currency itself, the unit, which is usually called either a coin or a token in the crypto world, is a piece of computer code, all right? Now, one of the things that is notable, and this is where I think you were going, is that cryptocurrencies are not under government oversight. Okay, for some people that's good, and for some people they think, well, that's why I don't really want to trust it, is because I want my government to be involved, you know, when these things are created. Well, as a matter of fact, the governments in South Korea, China, the United States, probably England, and a lot of European, the EU in itself, and other European governments have already been working on overseeing and regulation of cryptocurrencies, because they know, and I think they know, that this is what's coming down the road. Because the idea of using paper money and all of this electronic banking is becoming rather cumbersome and expensive. I'll tell you a good example for that. I'm an American, but I live outside the United States, so I have to wire money every month into my European bank account. Now when I do that, I have to go online, I have to type in a whole bunch of numbers, the IBAN, the SWIFT code, all of that kind of stuff. And then it goes through a process. It only happens one time a day. If you miss it by 3 o'clock on American time, you've missed it for the whole day. And you get your money, and you realize that your bank back in America has charged you $40 US at Chase Manhattan Bank to send it, and then the receiving bank, which mine happens to be the Bank of Austria, has charged me $15 to receive it. So for my own money, I've had to pay $55 just to transfer it, okay? So that's what one of the cumbersome things is about using government-backed fiat money. Now, the cryptocurrency economy is monitored by a peer-to-peer internet protocol. Okay, I'm going to go into a little bit more about that, but basically, cryptocurrency transactions are not going through like a credit card facility where the transactions are all done by a bank and a credit card type of a facility, computer. They are done on a peer-to-peer basis, which means that every time a cryptocurrency transaction goes through, I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. When you send a crypto from me to you, it goes through what's called the internet system of the blockchain network. All right. Now this is where you have what are called nodes, and you also have miners, which I'm going to explain. I don't want you to get too confused by that, but the nodes are where they verify the transactions, and I'll show you how that's done. But it's called a peer-to-peer system, so there's no bank, there's no Visa, MasterCard. Do they still have Diners Club? I haven't seen one of those in a while. But anyway, there's no company like that in charge of it. And then it's an encrypted string of data. It's also called a hash. That's the buzzword. Like when a crypto is mined, it's called hashing. All right. So it's encoded, and the reason that it's called crypto, if you remember back in World War II, you had encryption, you had cryptographers. Crypto is simply a short word for encoded, or somehow in a format where you can't look at it and tell the details of it, which is one of the advantages, by the way. Okay, so let's look at these have been, as long as I can remember, going on 3 years now, a little over 3 years. These have been my favorite 3 cryptocurrencies. All right. Bitcoin was #1, first one ever created. Ethereum is the second one that was created, and then we had early on Litecoin. So as a result of that, these 3 cryptocurrencies have what's called the highest market cap, meaning that they have the most ownership by people. So let's look at where they came from, because this is an interesting story. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but who was Satoshi Nakamoto? All right, Satoshi Nakamoto, that is a name that is synonymous with Bitcoin. And the reason is because the way that computer programmers work is that they have in their source code, which is where they write code, they put it into into a repository like GitHub, that source code's viewable by other programmers in most cases. Now, that's open source code. There is proprietary code, like if you own, say, an app for Apple devices, you would not just give that away for free. But in the world of cryptocurrencies, the source code for the crypto is fully exposed to the public. And this is a white paper, which is another element that comes in both scientific research and computer science. A white paper is where you outline what your project is. And so in 2008, this white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, appeared on a repository for other computer programmers to look at, and it was signed by someone named Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, no one named Satoshi Nakamoto has ever come on the news, in the press, or been exposed publicly, and his if it is a he, is completely unknown. Now, the only evidence we had was this email address, and then there was a website, which was another one of these repository type things that computer programmers use, called bitcoin.org, which has now grown. That was the original Bitcoin website. It's grown to where the person in charge of it, he's a big personality in the crypto world named Roger Ver. The bitcoin.org is where all of the programmers go who deal with Bitcoin, and they have what's called the Bitcoin Foundation, which is, they do make decisions. They're programmers, okay, and they deal with the creation of cryptocurrency. So what happened in Bitcoin, it came out in 2009, and it was specified, even the code was given in this white paper, and the Genesis coin, that's another crypto term, the Genesis coin, which is the very first coin of a cryptocurrency, it's called the Genesis coin, was produced in 2009. So we've had Bitcoin since 2009. Now, as a result, when it was first created, the Bitcoin was worth really only like 1 or 2 cents, all right, when it first started. And at the time, I can remember seeing like a video game where if you were into that, if you bought the video game, they would give you a certain number of Bitcoins, like 5 or 10 Bitcoins. And a lot of kids ran out, bought the video game, they got the Bitcoins, they put them in a wallet. Another crypto word, a wallet is where you store your assets or your cryptos. They put them in a wallet on their computer, they played the game for a while. Bitcoin didn't do much, it stayed, 30, 40 cents for a long time. And then they threw the computer in the dumpster because Daddy bought them a new one, and the Bitcoins are still on the computer. And that's true today. There are 4 million missing Bitcoins because of this. People have thrown away computers, much to their horror later, and realized that they could have had quite a bit of money. If you had 10 Bitcoins on a computer in February of 2018 worth $20,000 each, you can imagine what that would feel like. So this was Bitcoin's story. Now I'll read you, there was an investigative reporter that was working for Newsweek magazine, Lee Goodman. And Lee Goodman, being an investigative reporter, was really trying to figure out who is Satoshi Nakamoto, and found a man named Dorian Prentice Satoshi Nakamoto, who was a Japanese American. He lived in California, and his real birth name from Japan was Satoshi Nakamoto. But here's the kicker: he was a the things that make you think that he was the Bitcoin inventor is that he was trained in physics at Caltech, and he also worked as a systems engineer on classified defense projects, which you know that's got to be some pretty serious stuff, especially in the U.S., and that he was an engineer for technology and financial information service companies after he was a defense contractor. So that's the kind of person that might have been Satoshi Nakamoto. So we don't know, it could have been, it's also been rumored that it was Alan Greenspan, who was the Federal Reserve Chairman in the United States. Alan Greenspan was a computer programmer from the old days of Unix computing, where you had these big, massive computers with the reel-to-reel tapes and stuff. But he was known as the best computer programmer of his day. And so it's also been rumored that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, or Satoshi Nakamoto was a group of programmers that used this name. But that's enough about that. Now, this is Vitalik Buterin. He is the creator of Ethereum. Vitalik is Russian. He was born in Moscow. His family moved to Canada. And he's fairly young, but he worked for Bitcoin magazine. You may not know it, but there is a Bitcoin magazine, just like Golf magazine or anything else. And he was working on articles for them. And he's also, this guy was pretty smart. He was in a gifted student program for most of his life in high school. I think he graduated from MIT. Let's see. He was in a gifted class in his lower school, and when he was a child, the thing that he was famous for was that the parents of the other kids would ask him 3-digit multiplication, addition, and subtraction questions, and he would answer them just like without any hesitation. He could multiply 3 digits by 3 digits in his head. So he's one of these prodigy type kids, and he's still pretty young, but he worked for Bitcoin magazine. He studied Bitcoin and studied all of the things that were going on with Bitcoin, and he decided that he could do something that would be a little more useful than just Bitcoin, which is mainly used to transfer value. So he invented Ethereum. Now Ethereum is similar, but it has one extra added advantage to Bitcoin in that you can program an Ethereum token and you can put in it specifications, okay? So it's used there. You can take the Ethereum source code right off of GitHub, and you can write, if you're a programmer and you know what you're doing. I mean, I've made Ethereum tokens myself, but I just used the base code, okay? I didn't use the modified. I didn't modify it. But you can modify it to where it has data in it. Now, why would that be useful? Well, there's several reasons. One of the things, there was a crypto that came out called Veritasium, and its symbol is VERI. And by the way, all of these have symbols just like stock symbols. Like the symbol for Bitcoin is BTC, Ethereum is ETH, and Veritasium is VERI. Now Veritasium is based on the Ethereum source code, but it's called a smart contract, all right? So you can use that to transfer things like property or stock or amounts of gold or other tangible assets, and it can be done instantly over the internet. So that's what Ethereum tokens are used for, and there's hundreds of them that have been created from Vitalik's original Ethereum code. Now this guy, everybody in the crypto world loves Charlie Lee, okay? Charlie Lee started off at Google, and if you've ever used Google Chrome, this is the man who wrote it. Very smart guy. He was trained at MIT. He has both an undergrad and a master's in computer programming. And he wanted a crypto that was fast. Because what happened with Bitcoin was it was the oldest source code out there for cryptocurrencies. And with Bitcoin, it got slow. It takes a long time to transact a Bitcoin because it has to be mined. The verifications through the nodes take a while. And because of the cost of Bitcoin, it's a higher price that you pay in what's called gas, another crypto term, by the way. Gas is the amount that you pay to do the transaction. And so he invented Litecoin. Now, I love Litecoin. The thing about it is that Litecoin is that it takes seconds. It's on something called the Lightning Network, which is not the Bitcoin network and it's not the Ethereum network, the Lightning Network. And there have been many other cryptocurrencies created since then that are even faster. Some of the names out there are like Tron, Verge, Digibyte. All of these are what are called speed tokens or speed coins. They're made to do fast transactions. So within a few seconds, I could send any one of you $100 US in Litecoin, and you would have it. If you had a wallet on your smartphone, I could go to my computer, or I could take my smartphone and I could put in your address and send it to you, and you would have it. Now, I think the biggest question I get, and this is what I'm going to show you, is number one, how do you buy a cryptocurrency? Number two, how do you sell it? How do you get out of it? Like if you buy it, it goes up a lot of money, and you want to sell it. Well, we'll go into that. The first thing you need to do is to find an exchange, okay? I recommend Coinbase. I'm not working for Coinbase or anything like that, but it just happens to be one of the oldest and I think one of the most reliable of the cryptocurrency exchanges. So you go to Coinbase.com. What you do is you simply go online, you set up an account with your first name, last name, email, and they give you a password. And then they have what's called a verification process. Now this is to keep thieves and people that are unauthorized, who don't really own the credit card that they're trying to use or the bank account, out of the system. So they use the camera on your computer where you have to scan either your U.S. passport or British passport or your driver's license, but it has to be a government-issued ID, okay? And then you have to have a real address. Now that's in the exchange. So this is the place where you convert your real money into cryptocurrencies, is that an exchange. Different from peer-to-peer, which is, I'll show you a little bit more about that. So you can go in there, and as you can see from this screen, this is right off of the Coinbase website. You have a dashboard. This shows you how much you own. You can go to buy and sell, and you can go to your account settings and so forth. But you can use like a major credit card or connect it to 1, 2, 3 bank accounts. And what they'll do is take money from one of those sources, and you can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin on Coinbase. Those are the only 3 cryptocurrencies you can buy. But you'll have your balance, and this shows you what the daily total is. This shows you that this particular account in Bitcoin went up $523 in one day, which is, you know, one of those big days. 8.4% in one day is not unusual at all for a cryptocurrency. So what do we do? Okay, let's say we bought, we went to Coinbase, we signed up, we bought, what is that? I don't know, it looked like $6,700 worth of Bitcoin. Okay, the thing I recommend is get a hardware wallet, okay? Now I have 2 of these. I have the black one and the white one. This is the Trezor hardware wallet. There's also one called Nano, which is very good. But a hardware wallet is a place where you can store your cryptocurrencies offline, meaning that if you leave them in that exchange account, you've heard about hacks. The way that they hack an exchange account is you'll get an email that looks like it's from Coinbase, and it'll say, "Dear Mr. Smith, we need to verify your identity or your username," or something. It looks almost like perfect official stuff. And it'll say, "Please go to our website and and reinsert your password. All right? Well, that's called a phishing attempt. Now, phishing is used also to hack into things like your bank account. It's also used to hack into your credit card account. So if you ever see anything on your email from any financial institution, whether it's Coinbase or your bank or PayPal or anything like that, don't play around with it, because normally these companies that deal in financial issues don't send direct emails to their customers saying log into your account. If you go back to the original web address for Coinbase every time and you log in, you'll be much safer. But I don't recommend even leaving your money in Coinbase or Kraken or Poloniex or any of the other crypto exchanges, simply because these phishing attempts can be dangerous, all right? So you want to transfer that money out of there, which is very easy to do. You have an address in your Coinbase account for each of your cryptocurrencies. It's like I think it's a 28-digit address, and you can say send or receive, and then your Treasurer hardware wallet also has addresses for each of the cryptos, and you would copy the address from the Treasurer and place it into the Coinbase sending box, and it would send the cryptos here. Now, depending on which one that you're using, whether it's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, or many others, it'll hold quite a bit. A Treasurer hardware wallet will hold something, I can't remember the true number, but this thing is about the size of a key fob that you would unlock your car with. In fact, that's what it's made to look like, to fool people who don't know about cryptocurrencies. And if you were to go through an airport, you could go from one country to another with something like $1 billion on one of these things, okay? Depending on which crypto you use. Like, if you had, say, 500 Bitcoins, you can imagine how much that would be worth. You could load them up on this little key fob thing and stick it in your pocket and just walk through the line at the airport and carry 500,000 or $1 million or however much money you wanted into another country. Now, if you try to do that through the banking system, you would find that the fees would be exorbitant, and plus you're probably going to get red flagged, all right, by somebody. In America, it's our good old friends, the IRS, which I'm sure all of you know, that means the Internal Revenue Service, the tax authorities. So you think, well, okay, that sounds like what a bad person would do. Well, I'm not really, people don't call me a bad person, but I don't like the government knowing where my money is or what I'm doing with it. And I like the idea of having this secured offline, and I keep it in a safe. And the only way that somebody could crack into this is if they have either your private key, which is encrypted as well, or there's a 24-word phrase, 24 random words that you have to plug in a certain order to unlock this thing. Now that's if you lose it, they give you this 24-word phrase. But the Treasurer is my choice for the hardware wallet. So what do you do after you did all that, okay? You bought your Bitcoin, you bought your Ethereum, you're sitting around one Sunday afternoon with nothing to do, and you think, I wonder how this stuff's turning out. Well, this is, oh, by the way, I wanted to show you this screen. People say, well, how do I get my money back if I don't like this stuff? You know, like, I'm freaking out because Bitcoin's going down. I want to get my money out of it quick. Well, this is the screen that you go to, and what you do is you send your Bitcoin back to Coinbase here, and it'll have the dollar amount in either US dollars or euros or British pounds or whatever, and it'll tell you what the amount is, and you just punch this blue button and boom, it's done. And it goes back into your bank account, okay? So it converts it from crypto to fiat, and they do charge a fee every time you do that. Now the fee, I think for Coinbase, to make a typical transaction of, say, let's just say 2 Ethereum, which would be like maybe $1,200 or something, it's going to cost you about $15 to make that transaction on Coinbase, whether you're going in or coming out. But remember, you're converting from money, bank money, to cryptocurrencies. Now, my preference is something totally different. What I like to do, I have 46 cryptocurrencies to my name. And I shouldn't even say to my name because it's anonymous. I mean, nobody knows who I am in the cryptocurrency world, but I have in my Trezor wallet and several other places 46 different cryptocurrencies. Now, I bought them because some I bought at an early stage in their life cycle where they only cost pennies. Okay, they were only pennies, so I bought thousands of them for just a little bit. And the way that you do that is you trade, usually Ethereum or Litecoin or another of the major cryptos for one of these startups. That's called an ICO, the initial coin offering, which was derived from the name IPO, which is initial, initial share. Public offerings. Thank you so much, audience. You're wonderful. Initial public offering. Okay, so the ICO in the crypto world is the same as a stock offering. And so you can buy a lot of them very cheaply. This particular graph is from TradingView, which I recommend that you get tradingview.com. It's totally free, and you can watch the action. Now, this particular day in July, this was Bitcoin, and I can't read the numbers off of that projected screen, but I think it jumped up like $57 in 1 hour, and this is what these things do. They're very volatile. Okay, they're much more volatile than stocks, and I'm just telling you right now, if you don't have the guts for that, you don't need to be investing in this, because what happens is the market's new. The whole crypto world is brand new, and it hasn't stabilized. Like the stock market in America, you can pretty much say, well, I know what Apple's going to be worth one day, I know what Google's going to be worth, but the cryptocurrency market is new. It's like a whole new system. So as a result of that, you have these buying sprees. Now, we've heard governments like China, for instance, and South Korea, which is one of the most advanced IT countries in the world, is South Korea, come out and say, nobody can buy a cryptocurrency. No cryptocurrencies, all right? No Bitcoin, nothing. They say it, but they don't implement it, because the thing is that they may stop people from using exchanges, but you can send if you have access to the internet in your car or on a cruise ship, you can transmit any cryptocurrency, and there's nothing a government can do to stop it. The only thing they can do is stop you from buying through an exchange where you exchange your money for the crypto. But if you already own the crypto, you can exchange it with anybody, with your best friend, with the guy sitting next to you, with your children. My daughter has a wallet, and I send her, she lives in Charleston, South Carolina, and every now and then I'll send her a couple of Litecoins, and she'll email me back and say, wow, Dad, thanks, you know. It's kind of a fun thing for children to learn because it's fairly easy. So we want to also, here's Ethereum. All right, this is a big move in Ethereum that happened on July 18th. I have a blog about cryptocurrencies, so I was posting this on my blog just to show this, this big jump in price. Now, along with the jumps come what we call pullbacks. So you normally have, like right here, I was watching Ethereum run up to this level, thinking, well, okay, now it's really starting to hit new highs, and then you have the inevitable pullback before you start a new leg up. Now, the overall market right now is in what I would call a bear market, because we had in January and February a huge run up in cryptos to where I think that the high price for Bitcoin was, if it wasn't 20,000, it was close, may have been more, I don't know, but it was right at 20,000. Ethereum followed suit, all of the others, just huge jumps every day, 20% for some of them. I've seen cryptos in one day go up 165, 167, 200% in one day. And that's unbelievable performance. But I've also seen them drop that much in one day. So just be forewarned that, you know, you have to have the guts to do it. And the thing is that I like to watch the price performance. I usually keep this up on my computer. And another thing I like to do, this is called Etherscan. And for Ethereum-based cryptos, you can go on Etherscan and you can put any addresses. These are my addresses, and I would put my public address on the side of the ship. I don't care if anybody knows my public address for any of the cryptos that I have, whether it's the Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, because a public address, I'm hoping somebody will see it and send me some crypto. You know? But the thing is, they can't get anything from my public address. Now, if I gave them my private address, the private address is where the encryption happens. So when you send and receive, you have the public address, and those blue letters right there, that's only part of it. It's usually a little longer. That's where you send and receive, but the private address is where this 128-bit encryption exists, and somebody could take that and go in and crack in and get on the blockchain and probably take your assets, but you never expose your private address. And the thing is, it's not easy to do. Most people don't know how to do it. But you have an address bar up here, and you can see all of your assets. These are some of the cryptos that I happen to own. You can use ATMs. Now, I've seen these in Europe and many places where he has a phone wallet, and what he's doing is he's scanning the QR code on this screen, and it's giving him cash for Bitcoin. More and more often, you're starting to see this. This is tickets for a Jay-Z concert, and you have a QR code here, and all you have to do is take your cell phone. If you have a Bitcoin wallet on there, and you've got enough Bitcoin to pay for it, and the peer-to-peer network's going to verify that, by the way. And I'm going to show you on a transaction where one of the transactions I made 3 days ago has already been verified 11,400 times, which means that it's like if you went to the bank teller, they took that, when they give you the cash, you know how the bank teller's like, it's like 11,400 bank tellers counted out your cash because they verify these transactions, all right? So anyway, the QR code is a secure way to pay for something using Bitcoin, and I've seen them for Litecoin as well as another popular one in Europe. And then even good old Subway, where I used to eat all the time, they have the QR code on the window, and you can go into the Subway now, or Starbucks has really gotten into it, and you can pay for a Subway sandwich with Bitcoin or Litecoin, I think. And then this is what I was telling you about. Okay, so this transaction, Etherscan, the address, that's my address from, and that's the address to. And if you could read this, which I made sure I read it, 11,000, I think it's 347 verifications, okay? That's where the miners and the nodes, remember we have a network, a big network, worldwide global network, and that's where it's been verified that that was my transaction. Okay, so this is CoinMarketCap, where you can check the current prices. This is from today. Bitcoin is at $7,444. You get a little graph. You see some of them are kind of up and down. There's Ethereum, number 2. Litecoin is down here. Bitcoin Cash was forked off of Bitcoin, and I could tell you more about that later, but I don't have time right now. By the way, HODL, H-O-D-L, means hold on for dear life. Okay. That's what my philosophy of crypto investing is. I have, as I told you, 46 assets right now. We call them assets. And I don't intend to sell them or trade them or cash them in. Trade. I do trade. What I do is I go on a site like this. This is Bitcoin Gold versus Bitcoin. And this is called HIT BTC, which is just one of many of the trading sites. There's ChainJelly, there's Shapeshift. This one, HIT BTC, You go in there and you say, okay, I want to buy 100 Bitcoin gold, and it'll tell you the price for that in Bitcoin, and it will change you have an account, okay, a trading account, and it'll put the Bitcoin gold in here, and you can transfer it right back out to your Trezor wallet. And it only costs about 15 cents to make that transaction. And then this is what you call an ICO, all right? The ICOs listed on CoinSchedule and Token Market are the new cryptos that are coming out, and it gives you the company, it gives you the background of the people involved. And I can tell you this from working on these things, you know, doing my investigations, that some of the smartest minds in the world are involved in these things. It's really a common theme now in Silicon Valley for people to leave Google, Dell, Microsoft, or one of the other big computing companies and go work for a startup ICO for cryptocurrency. And the reason is they need source code, they need programmers, they need marketing, and they also need people who can manage something like this. And cryptocurrencies have different functions. Now, this is how to sell Bitcoins, back to Coinbase.com again, just to show you that you can get your money back. Now, if you converted it into another one, you can convert it back into Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin. You put it right back into Coinbase, hit the button, and it goes back into your bank account. TradingView. I love TradingView. This is actually my portfolio, and you can see the up and down movements of these things. So I've been awake at 12 a.m. in the morning, and all of a sudden I noticed there was a pattern when the Hong Kong market opens. Particularly the Asians are just really into cryptocurrencies. And when the Hong Kong market opens, when 9 o'clock Hong Kong time comes, you get a spike like this, which is really exciting if you're up late at night. You can see that happen. It's like just millions of people all of a sudden decided to buy one of the, this is Bitcoin, but like you might have one of these little coins that aren't worth very much, and it'll just shoot up in value. Or it could go down. So why should you have them? Fraud, number one. Blockchain assets are not cash, and they are verified on peer-to-peer network. Immediate settlement, smart contracts and coin transactions in cryptos take seconds, not hours or days. The fees are normally in just a few cents if you go from one crypto to another. Identity theft. All right, the thing is, nobody knows who I am, all right, in the crypto world. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, in Coinbase, they made a photograph of your passport, and that means somebody knows who you are.
Well, they do in Coinbase, but that's the exchange.
Yeah, but that exchange has connections. And, I mean, you have, obviously, agencies that can find that out.
Well, I'm not worried about agencies.
Yeah, but you're talking about transferring money, okay?
Right.
And when you're transferring money, that's subject in certain places to tax and so on.
Right.
Right? So theoretically, at least the way I see it, is if somebody made an effort, they could track you down.
Well, they could find my account in Coinbase, right.
Right.
Because it does deal with the banking system. But outside of that, identity theft, if I'm taking something from my Trezor and sending it to you on your computer, it's totally anonymous. Now, the Coinbase account is exposed to the banking system, so it has to follow all of the regulations of the banking system. You're right, so thank you for throwing that in. Access to everyone. Anyone who has the internet can have cryptocurrencies. That includes people walking around in the middle of Kenya, Africa, or anywhere in undeveloped countries, as well as those of us who live with modern technology can have access. It's decentralized, meaning that there's no central authority controlling it, and it has a universal recognition. What that means is that Bitcoin is worth the same in Hong Kong as it is in New York, as it is in New Orleans, Louisiana. Market action.
It doesn't have any intrinsic value. It's not linked to any commodity or any currency.
Buying and selling.
Probably not influenced by interest rates. Then it's simply supplying demand.
Well, gosh, I wish you had asked me that earlier because I'm over time, but many of the cryptocurrencies are now, instead of just being like coins where it's an exchange of wealth, are companies that are using this as a mechanism for not only funding, initial funding, but as a mechanism to do business. So you are investing in many of these ICOs that I just showed in a company that has a specific purpose. Now, I'll give you a quick example. There's a crypto called Propy, all right? P-R-O-P-Y. And what they do is they execute real estate transactions. So you can put on the Propy network, using their cryptocurrency, a property. And you can subdivide the property into as many units as you want to. So if you had an apartment building in New York City or something, you could put it on their network and people could buy parts of it. So the Propy cryptocurrency would go up in value as the property goes up in value. Now here's some things I want to get out real quick. Okay, this is just the disclaimer, and sort of I think this is probably going to answer some of your questions. Cryptocurrency prices are extremely volatile. I already said that. The user, who is you, must understand how to be safe with cryptocurrencies, because you can send them to the wrong address, you can forget your password. I mean, all these things are problematic if you mess up. Then somebody can steal your login information using a phishing attempt on a email or some other nefarious means, but they can do that for credit cards and other things too. And then some cryptocurrencies will disappear or become valueless. Now this is just like in the stock market where you have new stocks, penny stocks, whatever. They go up a little bit and then they just crash. So I always recommend to people that I know that they stick with the top 10. At least those are the more established ones that have shown a track record. And then government regulation will eventually come in. We're going to have government regulation by the SEC in America of the new ICOs being invented to make sure that the people involved are legitimate, to make sure that they filed all the right papers to prove that they're a corporation like an LLC. And I welcome that because I don't want to put my good Bitcoin or Ethereum out there to some scam artist who takes it and I never see it again. So this regulation is something that most crypto people like me welcome. And what we're having right now is a dual system where we have the old fiat currency government-backed system running alongside the crypto system. And I think eventually the crypto system is going to win out because it's just more technologically advanced. And then gains on cryptocurrencies are taxable. People say, oh, you don't have to pay tax on that. No, that's not true. If you have a lot of gains, meaning that you bought Bitcoin at 100 and then you sold it at 200, that's a $100 gain. And in the U.S., you have to pay capital gains taxes on that. So you're supposed to report that and you're accountable to it. Now, like this gentleman said, the IRS can probably peek into Coinbase and say, well, you had a certain number of cryptos that have gone up in value. And so you have to be honest. I mean, honesty is good. And this finally, I would say, is that cryptos may not be for you. I don't want to dissuade you from doing that. But if you're a guy like me who thinks it's really cool stuff and you like it, and you like the action of investing in it, and you like buying cryptos, and you like technology, then you can enjoy the world of cryptocurrencies like I do, because I have a heck of a lot of fun with it. So anyway, I just wanted to fill you in on the whole scene, and now you know where to go to buy it, what it's used for, what they are. And there's about 2,000 or 3,000 cryptocurrencies out there, and I don't own all of those, but I can tell you a little bit about some of the major ones. So I just want to thank you for coming. This is my last lecture, and if you have any questions, thank you.